Let's take a look at 5 Salesforce pipeline patterns that you can execute in stream sets. The first is a little bit of a gotcha. I want to show how in the Salesforce destination you can choose to use the SOAP API, Bulk API, or Bulk API 2.0. It's not really a pattern, that's the gotcha. I think it's worth showing off. Next, I'll show off a pipeline pattern that takes data from Salesforce and sends it into Snowflake using CDC, or Change Data Capture. Reverse ETL into Salesforce is the next pattern. A Salesforce to Salesforce pattern is number 4. And finally, a Salesforce data pattern is our number 5 pipeline pattern. This first design pattern is not so much a pattern, but an important feature that I think is worth pointing out and can affect any number of Salesforce pipelines that use the Salesforce destination. Let me clarify. So this Use Bulk API button here allows you to select whether or not you want to use the Salesforce Bulk API. Leave it checked to use the Bulk API. Otherwise, the Salesforce SOAP API will be used. Now, if you want to use the Salesforce Bulk API 2.0, that's easy enough. You take this one out and you look for the 2.0 destination, which is right here, and add him instead. In this second design pattern, we're looking at a Salesforce CDC pipeline into Snowflake. And this pattern may look intimidating. It's got a lot going on, or it looks like it has a lot going on, but it's actually fairly straightforward. This pipeline is taking data from Salesforce, doing some light transformation, and then depending on a set of conditions, doing a little more transformation and then sending it into Snowflake. The key and critical processor in this pipeline is the stream selector here, which based off of CDC change types of create, delete, and update, determine which stream the records flow into, which transformations are done to it before it heads into Snowflake. And it just shows off the power of this pattern. This pipeline in particular is available as a template for users to access. So hopefully you get a chance to play around with this particular pipeline and add to it and advance it on your own. With this Salesforce pattern, the third in our group of 5, we're looking at a reverse ETL pipeline into Salesforce. So we're taking data from a centralized warehouse, in this case from a MySQL database, doing a light transform and sending it off into Salesforce. This is the pipeline that we looked into earlier with the pattern 1. In this pipeline, what I want to show you off is this transformation step here where we convert field types. So I think this is so cool to show off because of how easy this is to accomplish. So with the field close state, I'm using this field type converter to drop down into a date time. And it's just as simple as selecting this from this drop down menu and then selecting the date time pattern that you want to see. Dates can often be fiddly, and stream sets makes this process quite easy. Pattern number 4 is a Salesforce to Salesforce pipeline. And this pattern is actually the same as the Salesforce data pipelines add-on. Taking data from Salesforce, it's transforming it, and then sending that same data back into Salesforce. And the difference between this pattern and Salesforce data pipelines is that this is the only pattern that the Salesforce data pipelines add-on offers, whereas StreamSets, many more are possible. One element of this pattern I think that's cool to highlight is how the Salesforce origin accepts SOQL queries. And this syntax should be pretty familiar to anybody that's familiar with Salesforce. And you can take a look at the syntax here and see how this might be collecting data from this destination, sending it off into the origin. Pattern number 5 is Salesforce to a database, and this is actually a reverse of the pattern number 3, hence the reverse ETL name of pattern 3. In this pattern, we're taking data from Salesforce, we're transforming it, and we're putting it into a centralized data warehouse. In this case, a MySQL database. We're using the whitelisted JDBC producer destination stage for this pattern, and I really like how StreamSets handles JDBC and databases that accept JDBC, because you're not going to be waiting around for StreamSets to develop a destination or origin that is branded to use and access your databases, like MySQL or other databases that accept a JDB connection. You can just use this connection here and you're ready to go. So I really like showing this off. I always use the connection details, as you can see, when I access databases on a shared environment like this one is. And I also like how StreamSets handles connection details. It can provide security for user groups and for roles that make it a lot easier and safer to share credentials to important databases like this one, which is our centralized data warehouse that accepts data from across our organization. In this case, Salesforce into our MySQL database. This concludes the 5 patterns of Salesforce into and out of Salesforce and other services using StreamSets. I hope that you can build upon these patterns and develop your own while you're working with this product.